Welcome to NEXTGames Intense Ambuscade series, July 2021, the fight against the Sahagins. Now in this video, I'll go over to the key item acquisition for this month. I'll go into the battle strategy I recommend for all difficulties. Then I'll show you a battle example on the very easy difficulty using Ninja Warrior with Ambuscade weapons and armor, with no gear swaps allowed. Then I'll show you an easy win with Ninja Warrior using my usual equipment. Then we'll finish up with an easy win with Red Mage Ninja, showing you the sleeping strategy if you don't have access to something that can put out as much damage as my ninja. Now for the key item acquisition this month, you need a single Sahagin kill for your daily quest, or 3 Sahagin kills for multiple times a day. Fortunately, you want to go to the same spot for all of them, which is level 125 Unity Warp at Sea Serpent Grotto. Now if you don't have this, you also can use a gold beast coin to get through the door, but that is kind of a hike for each of your key items. Now in regards to the mobs you'll be fighting this month, the main NM is a Bozzetto Songstress, which is a bard. Now in the very easy difficulty, she will be assisted by a Bozzetto Wave Fist, which is a monk, and a Bozzetto Flow Spear, which is a dragoon. Now in the easy difficulty, we're going to add a second Wave Fist. On normal, we're going to add a second Flow Spear. On the hard difficulty, we're actually going to add a Hydrophile, which is a white mage mob. And on the very hard difficulty, in addition to that white mage, we're also going to add a Chirurgeon, which is a Manta type mob and not a Sahagin. Now, in addition to all of that, you cannot damage the Bozzetto Songstress when any of the Sahagins are alive. In order to damage her, you actually just need to defeat different amounts of the Sahagins. On very easy, you need to defeat 3. On easy, 4. On normal, 5. And in addition to that, all of these Sahagins will now get a regen of 3% per tick when the main NM is not silenced, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now on difficult, you have to kill 6 Sahagins to take all of the Songstress's hit points away, and the regen moves up to 5% per tick. Additionally, the Bio Aura, if she is not silenced, is at 70 per tick at this stage, which is quite dangerous. Next is very difficult, where you need to defeat 8 Sahagins. The regen effect is now 15% hit points per tick when silence is off, and the Songstress herself can charm you on her difficulty, adding yet another layer of complication. Now let's go ahead and discuss the individual bosses we're going to go against and what their abilities are. The main NM, the Bozzetto Songstress, which by the way is the only one that needs defeated to get this win, sings Mambos until So Voice is used, and then uses the following order of songs. They are Mambo, Minuet, then Carol, then Finale, Therendy, followed by Requiem or Verali if you're on the very difficult difficulty. Now you can avoid all of this if you silence her. To silence her, you need to land 4 debuffs, which will then trigger the words, "The boss can barely croak the words out." You can then silence the boss, which will remove the Bio Aura and the Regen Aura from all the other Sahagin. Now let's talk about the Bozzetto adds, which will use Hydro Shot, which is a reset hate ability on the target it's used on, and Spinning Fin, which is AoE stun. Additionally, the monks can also use the ability of Sucker Punch, which also resets the hate on the target, making for some tricky moments with hate during this run. Now, all can use their respective 2 hours, which can include Benediction for the white mage, which can cure that songstress and really prolong the fight considerably, so keep this in mind when it comes to your strategy on those higher difficulties. Now when the songstress is silenced, the other Sahagins will begin to level up after each use of their weapon skills, so make sure you either sleep them or dispatch with them very quickly once she is silenced. Now if you fight the lesser mobs away from the songstress, they will take significantly less damage, so it's best to fight right on top of her for your best damage output. Now all of them can be slept relatively easily, but cleansing bubbles will remove all debuffs from the songstress and other mobs, so the sleeper and enfeebler will need to be on the lookout at all times to reapply these immediately once they're wiped. Also keep in mind that the 2 mobs that cannot be slept in this run are the main NM and the Manta, so make sure you have a way to manage both of them during your run. I suggest taking out the Manta right at the start. I also want to point out that the animation lock I am finding to be particularly challenging in this month's fight. The tank and sleeper will both need to especially be on the lookout for this, is if you get caught facing the wrong direction when they all wake up, you're going to get stuck facing that direction and unable to act, possibly ending your run for your group. I put some examples of exactly what it is I'm talking about on the right hand side there. This was my attempt to take on the normal difficulty, and even though the mobs themselves aren't overly challenging, When they all woke up, it completely locked me in place, and for I'd say over a minute, I was completely unable to move or do anything besides just continually reapply my shadows to try and keep myself alive, as my trust frantically try and cure me just to keep the run going. Now, let's go ahead and talk next about how it is to take on this fight for the different difficulties, because it is going to be substantially different depending on which one you're taking on this month. Now, for most casual players, if you're going to be solo, you will want to remain on the very easy difficulty this month. Now, on this difficulty, you go ahead and use Archiv or August to tank, but truthfully, none of them should be in too much danger, and make sure you are haste capped, and then fill your other slots with mages such as Yoran Oran, Kupipi, or even Sethtis. Start the fight by taking out the Flow Spear, then take out the Wave Fist as fast as you can. Now, if at all possible, go ahead and leave that Flow Spear alive and at low hit points until you get the monk either dead or to low hit points. You then want to finish them both off at the same time. You'll then have up to a minute to finish the remaining 33% of the songstress's health. Now, if you can finish her off, you're going to win the run. If the mobs respawn, you will have to kill the Flow Spear one more time in order to finish your run. But I really do think most will be able to take out the NM before these mobs respawn. Now let's move on to the easy difficulty this month. Now it's possible for solo players to take on the easy difficulty this month if they have one of the keys to being able to take this on, which is either being able to deal large amounts of damage in a very quick amount of time, or the ability to sleep the mobs yourself to buy yourself some time. Now with Ninja, we will just go ahead and go for that damage dealing route. We will take Joachim for marches, Arc TT for sleeps, Arcelia for haste, and Yoran Oran and Monborough for cures. Now our goal is to engage right at the songstress so that the other mobs bunch up right on top of her. Then take out the Flow Spear, followed by both Wave Fist. Now if done quickly enough, you can then switch to her and try and finish off the remaining 25% of her health that she'll have. Now in my attempts, I've gotten her between 5 and 10% on a few different occasions, but I've never quite managed to take her all the way down on that third NM, sadly. This means that the Flow Spear respawns, and you have to quickly kill it before some of the others respawn. All in all, the run will take either 3 minutes if it goes perfectly, or as high as 5 minutes if you have to kill the Flow Spear and have hate issues, which quite possibly do happen quite often during this fight. Now when taking on the easy difficulty with Red Mage, we will be bringing in Archiv to tank, but he will be unable to keep hate if we continue to weapon skill, so it's very important to make sure that you hold your TP for long periods of time to make sure he can do his job. When you think you're on top of your shadows and you think you can recast them quickly, go ahead and weapon skill, and then get your shadows back up as soon as they're stripped, buying him time to get hate back. We will also be using Ulmia for marches, Sethtis to restore HP, MP, and TP to us, and Monborough and Yoran Oran for cures. Our goal is to be fighting one Sahagin while we keep the others asleep. Be sure to use caution during the monks' 2 hours, as it can be very dangerous. I recommend full enfeeble of the monks before starting to do any serious damage to them to make these 2-hour periods much easier to deal with. Now, as you saw with the video to the right, it is going to be quite difficult this month to manage a normal solo run due to that animation lock. However, if you can manage to not get facing the wrong direction and animation lock, it is theoretically possible, as frankly the mobs don't hit that hard. However, it's going to take a very long time with the regen that is in effect, as you will undoubtedly not also have the time to silence and enfeal the main boss. More than likely, this is going to take close to the 30-minute mark if you can manage it. Now, in regards to groups, difficult and very difficult should be where you are aiming for this month. Now, in your group, make sure you bring a solid sleeper and enfeebler, as a lot's going to be resting on their shoulders for this run, as well as a good strategy for taking down the NMs that spawn for you. I recommend taking out the Chirurgeon first, and then ignoring the White Mage entirely to avoid the possibility of Benediction being used. Mob placement is key on this one, so make sure your tank keeps the mob you are fighting on top of the songstress at all times to maximize your damage output. Now, multi-step skill chains did impressive damage in my test, so make sure you don't shy away from them. Okay, I think that's going to be all the information I gathered for this month. Let's go ahead and see what our battle examples look like. Enjoy the runs, everyone. We're going to start with the Ninja on very easy, then do Ninja on easy, and finish with Red Mage on easy. sadly, as you can see in this example, we did not kill that second Wave Fist fast enough. This means that the Flow Spear and the other Wave Fist both respawned, and we're going to have to take out one of them before the Songstress is going to die. Know though that if we are fast enough, we could have finished the strategy that we used on the very easy difficulty of simply switching to the Songstress after we've killed all of the remaining adds and finishing off her hit points. I'm hopeful that at some point this month, I'll get all of my multi-step skill chains just right, that I'll be able to pull off this accomplishment. I also want to point out that even though you don't see me do it here, if you aren't constrained by time, I do recommend that you fully enfeeble all of the Wave Fist, just like you do with Red Mage, so that the 100 Fist is easier to manage. The last thing I wanted to point out is that the Flow Spear will most often spawn a Wyvern and then sacrifice that Wyvern for restoring as much as 50% of his hit points. This can make it so that Flow Spear can take longer than the Monks can, depending on what hit point percentage that is used at, so make sure you keep it in mind. If you can get especially lucky, you can go ahead and pull off a kill of that Flow Spear before he has the chance to sacrifice his Wyvern. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Red Mage and see how that looks in comparison to how it looks with Ninja.